Trust the process. Pain is power. All great things take time. I am unbreakable. Unbreakable. Unbreakable.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Unbreakables Podcast, episode 12. I am your host, Jay, and this is my brother, my co-host, GiftThePoet.
Episode 12, we have a world-class tattoo artist. He is an artist first, tattooist second, specializing in black and gray, portraits, realistic, fine line, graffiti, old school, new school, traditional, neo-traditional. He is a jack of all styles, and he is the owner of Orange County's premier tattoo shop, Illuminati Tattoo Lounge, located in Fullerton, California. With 8 different artists specializing in all styles, you think it and they will ink it. At Illuminati Tattoo Lounge, they live by quality, never quantity. And today we have the honor to sit down with the man behind the madness, the owner himself, Rafa Barragan.
What's up?
How are we doing today?
This is pretty chill. Chilling,
nice.
hanging out.
First and foremost, Rafa, before we get started, we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to share your story on our platform. Just like any other, think of it as a natural conversation.
Yep.
And, you know, we always want to start of just the root of where you started as a child, and then we'll slowly transition and what led you to success today.
Cool.
And we really want to highlight your failures, your adversity, your hardships, and
Cool.
we'll go from there.
Sweet. Well, let's start this off right then. Pretty much when I started, like with my family and how that was all about, it literally was, I guess, it's a family of 4. You know, I got 4 siblings, or myself and 3 other siblings. My mom and dad always worked. I was constantly finding new ways to be creative, getting out a lot of the house, like just going and exploring, getting into trouble. That was a majority of my time was spent outside. Like I'm not one of those people that just can play video games. I can't do that. It's not me.
And you grew up in Garden Grove?
Yeah,
Okay.
Garden Grove. Moved around a lot though. Like we were everywhere. My dad, he had his own business. My dad had a restaurant, Mariscos restaurant.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was in Santa Ana, and that was a trip because like I saw him very rarely. Like he worked pretty much 7 days a week,
Wow.
which is probably where I got my work ethic. You know, a lot of that stuff was instilled by my dad because I started working with him when I was young.
How old were you?
I was probably like 7 years old.
Wow, in the restaurant?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I was going back and forth when I had days off or on the weekends to go hang out with my dad and my little brother. My brother was way younger than I was when he was working. So he was like 4 years old, you know, like bussing tables and chilling.
No way.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were in the workman's world really early on.
You guys were exposed.
Definitely. You know, definitely finding our own unique ways to kind of create money. You know, I think one of my fondest memories of actually like trying to make my own money, my own income was I got to sell candies back to the neighborhood kids after Halloween.
Really?
So yeah, so like all the
That's
candies
clever.
that I got, I took them all and put them in a little bookshelf, and I would bring in all the kids that I knew, and I'd sell it back to them. So I was like,
pretty
all right,
smart.
Genius.
let's try this, you know, see if this works. But it was a trip, you know. At the time when I was young, my dad was pretty well off, but he went through some pretty bad like depression, stuff like that, with his business failing. At the time, my parents weren't doing so well, so it was kind of difficult on us because we went from living in Orange to moving to Garden Grove. We downsized big time.
So you started to see humble beginnings
Yeah.
in the early stages.
Yeah, definitely.
How was that for you? Like, what went through your mind when you guys, started from where you started off, and
Yeah.
had a transition?
The only thing that I noticed the most was we went from having whatever we wanted for Christmas and all that stuff to, barely scraping by. I think at that time my dad started drinking a bunch, and I started seeing slow destruction that he was going through, and I got to witness it. And then, I'm sure my siblings, because I'm probably I'm the second oldest.
Okay.
My sister's older than I am. But we started seeing a lot of that change, and it really started affecting us when, he would just get out of control and lose his temper, and we got the wrath of it, But it all came with, I guess, years now. Like, I look back at all that stuff, and it was probably just his way of coping, But it's a trip, because we went from that, and then my dad did odd jobs for the longest. So a lot of my childhood was seeing how he was able to just create money out of nothing. I mean, he was doing demo jobs. He sold restaurant equipment.
Wow.
Sells jewelry now. Like, he's a hustler.
Yeah, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And usually people will find that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's funny to see or hear people talk about my dad now, because I didn't have the best relationship with any of my parents. I was always kind of like the outcast, just kind of casted aside. So
why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. Maybe I just did my own, I was always in my own head. I always kind of tend to do my own thing. I couldn't really say I was a creative as far as back then, because I didn't really draw all that much. I would pick up a pen here and there, and if I was in school, someone's like, "Oh, Ralph likes to draw," he'll go ahead and take care of that. All those projects were left up to me, but I didn't really consider myself an artist at that moment. It took years later to find that out, but it was kind of a weird upbringing, because there was no real help. You couldn't really turn to your parents for help.
Especially at that time, right?
Oh yeah, they were going through their own issues. What are you supposed to do? You can't bring yourself to having them wind down and just kind of, hey, let's chat. I'm going through some stuff. It wasn't like that at all. I see myself now. I had to check myself a little bit too, because I started doing that with my kids, where I was kind of not really, being all present, because I'm always working. I'm always constantly creating, especially tattooing. It's a hard business to get into.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's for me now, things are going well, but it's always still a struggle, because if I don't work, I don't get paid. It's a small business. I got friends that work for me now, but it's still one of those things where it's like, if I'm not there, I'm not making anything. So even vacations have to be planned out, all that stuff. Like, everything has to be done at its own time.
Of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a trip, being a kid. And then I didn't really get exposed into the tattoo industry until way later on in life. I mean, my first job after my dad, working with my dad for a little bit, was Disney. I worked at Disney for a little bit.
Complete difference.
Yeah. So
My niece goes to Disneyland.
yeah, man,
Huge difference.
it was a trip. I worked at Disney for a little bit.
What did you do at Disneyland?
I worked at a place called Pizza Port.
Okay.
And then once I got into that, I wanted to become one of the characters.
Oh, no
And
way.
I got an opportunity to do one of the characters, and then right before things really started going well with that, I ended up getting fired, because I went and I was smoking weed, and it was with one of my leads, and we went to the top of Space Mountain, and he's like, "Hey, you want to trip out on some stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So we smoked weed, came back down, and then we ran into another lead, so I got fired. But that was pretty trippy.
There goes your Disney days.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half into Disney, but I pretty much just kind of floated along after that, really just trying to find my niche. I think it was, I started working with my sister, she was working in a medical field, so I got into that right away. I was like, well, this looks like fun. I was going to school at the time, still not really sure what I wanted to do with myself. And then I was like, well, let me just try art. Let me just give that a shot. I started doing some drawing classes and painting classes and really enjoyed that. But every second of the day that I'm in class, I'm thinking about how I could potentially be making money, you know? And I'm like, damn, I just feel like it's just a waste of time.
So you always had that entrepreneurial mindset.
I would say so, yeah, specifically because of my dad's side. Like, my dad's one of 11. You know, he's got 11 siblings, and they all have their own business, you know, and they all have a way to, you know, create money from nothing. And I see that in them. My dad's probably on the outside of that. He's probably the rebel. Well, I would say my Uncle Louis is probably the biggest rebel, but yeah, my dad's like on the other spectrum. Like, he had his struggle, and he's still trying to bring himself back up, and he's in his 60s still, you know, but, or now. So it's one of those things that, yeah, seeing it a lot in my family, I was like, you know what, I can probably do this.
So you wanted to monetize art in any kind of way, or you just wanted to make money out of nothing, really?
Yeah, well, at first it was mostly just what made me feel good, you know, and then working for the medical field and with my sister, that was cool and all, but even then, you know, you get fed up from people telling you what to do.
Of course.
And then especially when we started doing so much for the company, they didn't realize our worth until we walked out on them. It was me and my buddy Alex, and we walked out on them. And I ended up having to live with him later on, and years later, because I got kicked out of my house, just being reckless and just not caring. And I think in the early years of my life, I dove headfirst into drinking, drugs, all that stuff. I mean, I did it all.
So did you find yourself kind of going down the path, especially with alcohol?
Yeah.
Similar to your father?
Yeah, your dad's footsteps.
Oh, most definitely, because I didn't really have anything going on in high school. Like, I didn't make grades, so I couldn't play football. I wanted to wrestle, didn't make grades. Didn't really care for school. I was always kind of finding ways to not be there.
Like loopholes and stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of the time I was lost in my head. So, like, I did a lot of psychedelics, and that was fun, but it was more like a crutch. It was like just another excuse to just not live in reality.
Right.
You know, so I started realizing that this is not going to be for me, and I needed to change. So I got serious about art, and I wanted to open up my own, like, either studio, like an art studio, or like a gallery, because my art is completely different compared to the stuff that I tattoo. I mean, my stuff is so weird, and I think it definitely cuts through the bone, because it's very hard to watch, to even see some of my art, because it's very it's depressing. And it's mainly because I'm bringing from
your emotions.
my emotions, right? Yeah, but a lot of it is very odd and like creepy, but
it's a gift.
Yeah, you know, it definitely brought me, it made me focus more on what made things feel right, and art was definitely that. Once I started drawing, and then I was always sketching inside, like, the office. People would always hit me up, hey, can you draw this? Hey, can you do that? And then one of my friends was like, yo, I want to get something tattooed. Can you draw something for me? And I was like, sure. And then I drew it for him. He actually got it tattooed. And then moments later, he's like, I feel like you could have done better.
Really?
Yeah, and I was
Wow.
like, for real? He's like, yeah, man. He goes, why don't you give it a shot? And I was like, okay. So I go online and I find some cheap Chinese tattoo machines and equipment. I started tattooing.
What was the first tattoo that you did?
The first tattoo that I did was on my buddy Alex, on his ribs. He had like these claw marks in his ribs, and it was in color. And I did it at my parents' house on a futon. And my dad walked in, and he just like looked at us, and he's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And he just walked right out. Yeah, so that was fun. It was a trip though. It was funny getting into that, because I had tattoos at the time. I got it at a house, and I think the first thing I got tattooed was Picasso. I got Picasso on the back of my arm, which is now gone. This whole arm has been
You got it removed,
removed, right? Yeah. So I got all this stuff that I was like practice. Like once I started getting into tattooing, I realized that the only way I can really learn to tattoo, besides going through the apprenticeship, which I wasn't gonna do, I didn't have the time to spend on an apprenticeship because you have to be there 24/7. You can't work a regular job and then go be an apprentice. Like you have to be there all the time. So I couldn't do that. And I was like, well, I need to figure something out. Like I really like this art form. How am I going to make this work for me with my schedule? So at the time I went to my parents and I was talking to my brother and I saw a little sketch and I was like, yo, who did that? That's pretty dope. It was like a monkey or something like in pen. He's like, oh, my friend Coyote. And I was like, Coyote? I was like, is that his real name? He's like, no, that's his nickname, but his name is Hector. And I was like, okay, that's what's up. I'm like, call him, have him come here, and I want to see if he wants a tattoo. And
just like that.
Yeah, so I hit him up. He came over. He didn't live that far, like a couple blocks away. Came over, and I was like, yo, man, have you ever thought about like tattooing? He's like, no. I'm like, so what's up? You want to start tattooing? He's like, fuck it. He's like, let's go.
Wow.
Yeah, so we literally started practicing on each other. And it was a very, very slow period. Like, I mean, I'm having all my friends hit me up like, yo, practice on me. It's fine. Like, I know you're a good artist. Like, let me just go ahead and let me get something from you. I'm like, cool, let's do it, you know? So I had a lot of able and willing bodied people just come in and just, hey, what's up, man? Do something on me, you know?
Yeah.
And we're kids at the time. I think I started, let's see, 20, maybe 22, you know? We're not making a whole bunch of money back then. It was probably just enough to pay for our car payments, you know, a lot of us. And a lot of the younger kids, I think, started tattooing a bunch of like 17 and 18-year-olds, you know, like kids from the neighborhood.
Yeah, so you're about 22 years old. You had just started tattooing.
Yeah.
What was the transition like from going from normal paper to, say, skin? Man,
it was trippy.
Yeah.
You know, because I was never really comfortable on canvas or anything like that in the first place. Like I normally painted on wood. So it was just a hard surface to begin with. And then going from that to like this spongy, kind of odd, a living organism, you know? So you're like trying to, you're applying ink in that, you know? So I didn't know the rules and regulations that I had to do to create that art. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like once I stumbled upon the art form, it was really just like it really engulfed me in this whole realm, because I had no idea. I didn't know what machines were. I didn't know who anybody was. Like that wasn't my life. I was never exposed to it.
Yeah.
My parents didn't have tattoos. Nobody in my family did. I think I started getting tattoos probably the first out of my family. Well, maybe my cousin Louis, but he was older and I never really saw him. Like he joined the army and he had tattoos done when he was with his friends, but I rarely saw him. So when I started getting tattoos, it was mainly because I wanted to feel what everybody was going through. Like I remember seeing some stuff on I think it was Discovery. It was called Taboo. They would talk about like a lot of these really weird rituals, you know, like a lot of the tapping and all that. So I was like, well, maybe that was one way that I can kind of get out of my comfort zone, you know, or a lot of those rituals were to become a man. So I was like, well, let's try this, you know, let's give this a shot. Got tattooed and realized it doesn't hurt for me. And I was like, well, this is gonna be a fun journey, because I was like, you know, I'm addicted already. As soon as I felt the pain, I was like, this is cool, you know. And the thing with tattoos, it's like it hurts for a little bit, and then you also get this rush. Yeah. You know, the endorphin rush kicks in. You actually start feeling good. Yeah. You start giggly. You know, you're in the moment. But a lot of it too is you're just trying to release something. Most of the time, people get tattooed, it's when they've had a bad breakup or
it's actually very
death.
True. Very, very true.
You
know? I could attest to that. All my tattoos was always after something drastic.
Yeah.
So for any of you that are watching and wondering who does my artwork. It's this guy right
Yeah.
here. So
That
I
was
give
years
him
ago,
all
too.
credit. Yes.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, which is a trip because it was Rat-a-tat-tat when I first started tattooing you, and then now I own that place.
So
That's
it was
amazing.
you and Coyote that started Rat-a-tat-tat?
No,
Did you guys work out of there and then eventually took over?
Yeah, what happened was I was working still regular job and still tattooing my friends, and then I started traveling to people that wanted to get tattooed. So I started doing like a concierge service. So like on my weekends, I would take off, or after work, I'd take off to whoever wanted to get tattooed by me. And then this is probably around the time where like MySpace was really cracking. So I used that to kind of, you
As your
know,
platform.
yeah, get my my clients started. And then I saw Coyote like I wouldn't say a couple months after I really started taking tattooing seriously. And he's like, yo, I met somebody, he owns a shop, he's gonna give me a shot. And I was like, okay. He's like, but I need you. I was like, for what? And he's like, I need to do a tattoo on you to show him that I can tattoo. And I was like, okay, cool. So he ended up doing, what did he do? He did the, I think it's Salvador Dali. I have it on the back of my leg. He did that in front of him, and then the dude's like, his name is Robert, but he was like, have you ever tattooed at a shop? He's like, no, we've tattooed out of our house. And he's like, it's pretty good. You know, it was a very nonchalant answer, but it was, he's like, yeah, man, it's pretty good. He goes, all right, you can work here. And we pretty much before that interview was like, he's like, yo, but if I get in, Hector was telling me this. He's like, yo, if I get in, I'm gonna try to get you in, you know? I was like, all right, cool, that'd be tight. So I think maybe like a month after he got in, there was a situation where somebody ended up leaving drastically. And he gave me a buzz. He's like, yo, come over here, bring your portfolio and show the owner. And I was like, all right, cool. So I showed the owner and he liked my stuff. So I started working there.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice. And
So
this was around year
I want to say it's in 2008.
2008?
Yeah, 2008. Because I didn't start, I started tattooing probably like around 2006. And I was just finding how the machine works, you know, just really tinkering with it.
Trial and error.
Right, and it wasn't all the time. It was probably once every 2 months that I would tattoo somebody. So, yeah, it wasn't all the time. And when I really got serious was 2008. I was working for Robert and Rat-a-tat-tat, and then I was still working. At the time, I was doing collections, medical collections, which is a completely different field than what I'm in right now. But mostly customer service. I was dealing with insurance companies, so that was a trip. I fucking hated it. I really hated talking to people on the phone because it was really stressful. Everybody hated you, especially because you're calling them and collecting money from them, you know, but it was stressful. So I was trying to find my way out of that situation.
Especially that 9 to 5, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then I got so good at doing collections that they gave me probably one of the sweetest setups that I could have ever asked for, and even that wasn't good enough. Like they're like, well, look, we just want to make you happy. You know, you're killing it. We're gonna give you a couple days off. And I was like, all right. And I was like, well, I want Monday and Friday off. I just want to work Tuesday through Thursday. And they're like, well, we can't do that. They're like, nobody does that. And I was like, well, listen, I want to do that. I'm like, if you guys want to make it work, let's make it work. So they ended up doing that, and I still was able to make my cap in just those random days, those 3 days. And that still wasn't enough. It just, sitting there in a cubicle and like not being out and actually talking to people, and these cubicles are tall. Like when you're in it,
You're isolated.
yeah, like you're like in your own little bubble, and I'm always in my own head, and that was like not a good place to be for me. So I was making decent money, but it's just that wasn't enough.
You weren't fulfilled, right?
Heck no. You know, there's no way. Like I never really cared for money at the time. Like I remember one time I told my dad, I was like, if I can just be a bum and draw and paint, I would totally do that. You know, but it just, I had so much respect for my family. I didn't want to put them in a weird situation. I was like, I don't want them to say that my son's a bum, but they pretty much thought that already. They're just like, they didn't know what I was all about. They didn't know if I had any set goals in life besides the fact that I was just floating along, making money, doing collections.
Yeah. So you and Coyote are at Ratatat.
Yeah.
And when did the transition happen from Ratatat to you guys fully taking over Illuminati Tattoo Lounge?
Well,
Creating
it
that.
pretty much started with, I quit my job in 2009, October 1st, 2009. And I remember tattooing full time was a completely different beast. I mean, I went from making a comfortable living to barely making $500 in a month. And that
Because it was all based on your schedule, right?
it was based off on how I promoted myself up until that point. Like, I was tattooing just to make extra money. I wasn't tattooing for a living. Once I got serious and I had to tattoo for a living, it was crazy. I mean, you're talking being there for 12, 14 hours a day, not tattooing at all. I mean, drawing most of the time. It was an insane change of pace. I mean, I can wake up whenever I wanted to, you know, go into the shop at noon if I wanted to. But since I still had my schedule of waking up early, I would still try to make it by 8 or 9. And my old boss was like tripping out. He's like, what the hell? Like, we don't start tattooing until 1 or 2. And I was like, well, I want to open up the shop. You know, I'll be the first one there. I don't mind it. At that time, I think I wanted to really take my business seriously. And then, so I was like, well, let me just create a brand. And that's when Illuminati Tattoo actually got into my head. And then I've always been fascinated with like secret societies and weird stuff like that. Like, it always sucked me in. And not really taking like what people say about it now. It was mostly just like, well, it intrigued me, like this, you know, like the people that do the things that happen behind closed doors. Like, that's always been something that interested me. So I did it mostly as like a fuck you to everybody. I was like, look, man, I'm gonna call my shop this, or my brand. It was just gonna be T-shirts at the time. I was like, I'm gonna start this brand. I'm still gonna work at the shop, you know. And then once I started doing that, my ex-boss was like, yo, he's like, I see what you're doing, you know, I dig it, you know. He's like, but just know that you still work here, you know. So he kind of gave me like an ultimatum a little bit. But I asked him before I started doing that, I was like, hey, I want to open up part 2. I'm like, I feel that we can totally branch out and then we can take this to the next level. And he flat out told me, he's like, I don't even know if I want to be in this business, in this industry. Yeah, because he's done it for so long. He just seen so much change. He wasn't excited about it anymore.
You lost that passion.
Yeah, so I was like, man, I really don't want to be in the situation where this person doesn't want to motivate us. And tattoo shops have existed for years, and it's always been the same. It's always been a percentage system. When I decided to open up a shop, I didn't want to do that anymore, because I saw how much we were giving back to the shop. I felt like it wasn't worth it. Like, they're literally using our talent and our skills to make a profit for themselves when they were doing absolutely nothing. They weren't even providing needles, nothing. Everything was all my materials. Everything was my clients, and I still had to give a percentage. So I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit anymore. Yeah, in this period, I met my girlfriend, Christina, and then she was kind of telling me, she's like, look, like, you see how much you make? Like, he gives you a printout. You can totally do your own business. And it never really occurred to me at that time. I just knew I wanted to start something along with the company I was working at, because I was loyal to him. I was loyal to the shop, and I've never bounced around at all. I've only worked at that shop. So I was like, well, let's try this out then. At the time, my friend Josh and Hector, they kind of did their own thing. They had a falling out with my old boss. And I hit up Hector, and I was like, look, which is Coyote. I was like, look, bro, I'm thinking about opening up a shop. Are you down? He's like, yeah. He's like, let's do it. So I started looking, couldn't find any place that really would really give me a chance, because at that time I had shitty credit. I mean, I didn't have any money saved. The only thing that I really had that was my prized possession was my bike. I had a 1969 BSA. It was a bobber. It was a fucking gorgeous bike. And it was broken for the longest time, and I had it in the shop. Like, you would come into the shop and you'd see my bike there. It was like out in front. I remember that. You know, and nice. It was one of those things where it just stayed there. It was like a staple of the shop because it was so fucked up. And I was like, well, damn, like, I need to sell this bike to make a little bit of cash to start this new business. So I had a friend of mine check it out, and he like got it running in like a minute or like 2 minutes. Yeah, and I was so pissed because it was there for like a year. And I was like, man, I could have been riding this thing. But so he got it started. I posted it on Craigslist. It sold like a week later, or like a month later or something like that. I didn't get nearly as much as I wanted. I wanted like $6,000. I ended up getting like 3,000. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take this. I didn't have credit cards at the time because my credit was so shit. And I was like, well, fuck, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna start this business? And I'm still looking for places. And then my cousin Alex out of nowhere hits me up. My uncle actually owns his own restaurant and owns the building. Mm-hmm. So he gave me a call and he's like, hey, we got a little spot for rent, a little studio. It's pretty cool. It's small. It's like 700 square feet. Do you want to try it out? I was like, well, yeah. Like, how much am I gonna have to put down? He's like, don't worry about it. Just come in and then we'll figure it out. And I was like, all right, cool. So my uncle ended up hooking me up fat. I mean, $700 a month. Wow. I mean, yeah, it was epic. So once I got into that place, I was like, well, shit, I put this money down for the spot. Now I need to get equipment. So I went to Best Buy and ended up getting a credit card with Best Buy, and it was probably like $200 or $250 at the time. And then I ended up getting Christina's credit because I was like, hey, can you apply for something? And she's like, yeah. They ended up giving her way better, I guess, an amount. So I used that to buy a lot of my equipment. And then there was a carpenter downstairs where my uncle was working at, and he actually built my whole little desk.
No way.
Yeah, so he built the desk and everything, and it was a pretty cool setup. It was 4 stations. I had Hector in one. I called my compadre now, Juan. I hit him up too, and he ended up coming over and working for me. And then who else did I have? I had my buddy Mark, who's now living the life in Maui, and he's doing good shit over there.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
He's fucking living the dream. And I had a couple other guys come through. Elvis, who now works at the shop too. We all worked together at one point. You know, we were all at Rat-a-tat-tat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So once I started that, things were going well. I was a private studio. I wasn't really doing much besides that, just tattooing a couple clients of mine, making decent amount of money, like able to pay rent, which was great for me. And then shit happened. Somebody didn't like the fact that I was there, reported me saying that I was tattooing at an unlicensed place. I was trying to get licensing, but due to the fact that it was in an industrial area, you couldn't get it. And then you had to pay, like, I think it was like $2,500 for a down payment, or $5,000 for a down payment, but it was like for a conditional use permit, which is ridiculous.
So there were a lot of constraints at that time.
Yeah, you know, and it was maybe just because of that area. I'm sure I could have gone anywhere else, but it was a shot that I had to take.
Absolutely.
I could not take that opportunity, and I was like, well, I got to do it. And then so when that happened, I find out that you know, my girlfriend's pregnant with my son Cruz, and I had to shut down my business. So like right when I find this out, I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. So I was like, okay, let's try figuring it out. And literally, I had a call from Mark, and then at the time he was working in San Diego, and he's like, hey, if you're interested, there's somebody trying to sell a shop in Fullerton. Go hit him up, talk to him, and see what you can work out. So I was like, all right, let's try this. I go to the guy, and he was interested, and he's like, it's gonna be like $30,000 and you can buy the spot. And I was like, for real? I was like, okay. I didn't have anything saved. I was like, yeah, fuck it. I just said yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
Just
like,
took
okay.
a leap
Yeah,
of
I was like,
faith.
fuck it, whatever. You know, I'm like, I'm not gonna. I don't know where the hell I'm gonna pull this money at. It's like
But
literally.
you knew.
Yeah, I was
You
like,
had
fuck
that
it.
why, and
Oh, yeah.
the how was gonna come.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to do that because, you know, if your mind's not set on anything, you're just going to be floating around forever, you know? So like once I said yes to something, I knew I was going to make it happen. Whether I had to work a second job, whether I was going to get a loan, I had no fucking idea. So I was like,
You were gonna figure it out.
right. And I remember I had maybe like 4 or 5 grand saved, and then I hit up my dad. And at the time, me and my dad weren't always seeing eye to eye. So once he found out that I started my own business, he started coming around more because he started realizing that I am now becoming someone that he can appreciate and be proud of. Because he started seeing that I wasn't just a fucking bum. Like I wanted to actually draw. And he had no idea, like, who has a kid that just tells you randomly, like, hey, I want to be a tattoo artist? And like, you probably have higher expectations for him, but that's what he told you, you know? Like he didn't really have a way to kind of, I guess, help me too. He's like, oh fuck, I don't know if you're gonna make it, you know?
Yeah,
I
but
don't know if
at
you're gonna
this
make a
point,
living.
he sees that you have direction and that you're actually executing everything that you want to do.
Yep.
So he decides to help you out, and then what happened after that?
He gave me like $2,500, and then I ended up having to go to the bank, and I applied for a personal loan, and it was about 1.5 years into me having my studio, so my credit started getting better. And then I decided, I was like, look, okay, if I can get at least $18,000, I can try to figure out how I'm gonna come up with the other amount. So I talked to the guy. I was like, give me a month. You know, give me a month. Let me see if I can come up with the money. Let's do this. He said, all right, whatever. You know, just make sure it has to be in a month. All right, cool. I literally made special after special. I barely ate. I was
You
like,
just grinded.
yeah, you know, and like that shop was open 24/7, so I was trying to be there as much as I can. Like she barely saw me. Like my wife barely saw me. She's like, fuck that. She's like, just do what you got to do. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. So that's exactly what I did, and I got the money, and I was finally ready to do this. When I met up with the guy, he went back on his word. So he's like, look, I don't want to sell it anymore. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? I was like, I just literally was killing myself to try to come up with this cash.
And you did it in under a month, the 30,000?
Yeah, it was probably like in 15 days or something like that, you know? And then at the time, I was like, well, fuck, this guy went down on it. He went back on it. So I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I ended up, I think, giving the money back to the bank. And I ended up closing out that loan. Gave my dad his money back, and then I had like another 2 months before I had to be out of my uncle's spot, because I gave him a date. I was like, look, I need to be out of here by a certain date. And then I started looking for a new place, and then this is where the orange shop came out. I had no clue where I was going to start, and I remember talking to Christina's mom, and she's in management, property management. So she's like, hey, look, I can probably get you into a spot. I'm gonna hook you up with somebody who's a realtor or a broker, and then we'll see if we can find you a place. The only place he showed me was this rundown old fish and chips place in Orange, which is a fucking shithole. I mean, like, if you were to go there when we first got it, you would have ran.
Yeah.
You know, in the opposite direction. But that was the only place that wanted anything to do with a tattoo shop. And it just so happened to be in front of another tattoo shop, which is like a fucking big no-no. My whole thing was, well, like, fuck it. You know, competition is competition. People go to a tattoo shop. They're gonna see there's another tattoo shop. They might want to talk to us, but we're doing something completely different. That was more of a traditional shop. I was more of a black and gray shop. So there's a complete different, you know, styles. And when I went into this spot, I was looking at it. I was like, well, this is what I got. This is what I'm gonna have to make do. And I had to go through the whole process of trying to find money to open up this shop. And it was like $8,000 as a down payment because of my credit. Because of the fact that I never really, because with my uncle, he didn't sign a lease or anything like that. There was no
accumulated
Yeah,
credit.
there's no nothing that I can go back and say, oh yeah, look, for a year and a half I was over here. We did none of that.
This was more legit, right?
Absolutely, it had to have been. So the guy wrote up this contract, and he's like, look, this is how much you got to put down to get in here, first and last. It's going to be like $8,600. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I got 5. And then at the time, my buddy Elvis was like, yo bro, I just got $4,000. I'll give you the $4,000. Let's partner up. I was like, great. So fuck it, let's go. So we put that down. We put all of what we had down. I didn't even have a loan at all at the time. I was like, shit. So got the spot, and then I started like really hustling and working at the private studio to open up the new shop. And then what was it? I had probably about like another month and a half before Cruz was born. And at the time, like, Christina's ready to pop, and I'm like, fuck, okay, this needs to happen now. We ended up moving in with her parents, and that got me an opportunity to kind of save some of my money, because I went from my apartment to renting a room pretty much. I went in, got another loan from my bank. Fucking, they were awesome. They definitely helped me out. Yeah, big time. And it was all personal loans, so I didn't get the greatest rates. It was always like a really shitty rate. It's like a little bit better than a credit card, but they're like, look, you have an opportunity right now. We're gonna give you $15,000. And then it was a summer deal to where if I got the personal loan, they'd give me another $2,500 just because it was a summer deal.
Oh, nice.
So they gave me like $17,500 is what I ended up getting. And then I was like, man, this is not going to be enough. I don't know what to do. And I was talking to my buddy Elvis. I was like, look, bro, if we're going to partner up, I need you to kind of come up with something, some kind of cash, anything, because this is not going to be enough. I know for a fact it's going to be at least $40,000 to put into this new place, because it was gutted. I mean, you're talking fish and chips. So there's oil, no plumbing. I didn't have electricity, no walls. I mean, it was a mess.
So you literally had to build it from the ground up.
Yeah, there was no floor. There was like, the floor was shit. It was like cracked cement. I had no idea that I had to get blueprints, any of this shit. I did it the most ghetto fabulous way that you can possibly do it, and it looked great. But it was like, seriously, like, it was grind time. I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do? How am I gonna make this fucking shit work? I have no idea how to be in business. I just started a business and it failed like a year later, so let's do this. Got into it, talked to Elvis. He wasn't able to kind of come up with the cash, so I was like, look, bro, if I buy you out, I'll give you a couple months free rent, at the shop, and then you'll be my manager, so you got like perks. And he's like, fuck it, he's like, he was a little bent out of shape for it, because he was going to be a partner. But at the time, I was like, I didn't see anything coming out of that side. So I was like, I'm just gonna, before things start getting real serious, let me just do this now, because I want to save the friendship, because that's what meant most to me. So I was like, all right, let's do this. I had like probably $2,000 cash, and then I gave him my car. I was like, here's my car, bro. I don't have anything else I can give you. Everything's gonna go back into the shop. So he took it. He said, fine. And then I think I had about so it was about a month and a half before Cruz was born. I ended up working 24/7 for 2 weeks, and I made like $10,000 to come up with the other amount. Yeah. I was like, fuck, I need to work.
So how was that was she your wife or your girlfriend at the time?
Well, she's still my girlfriend at the time. We're not married yet, but.
So how was that?
She was fucking pissed because she couldn't work. With having Cruz, and she was on her feet most of the time, she just couldn't work. She's like, I just need to chill, So she took, I think, probably like 4 or 5 months or something like that before Cruz was born. And then I ended up getting her a dog.
What kind of dog was it?
To kind of replace you, right, for a little bit?
Which is Cotton. He's a fucking Pomeranian or something like that, like a little white fluff ball. Yeah, so I got her a dog, and it was her sister came by, and she was like, she had this tiny little thing, and I was like, I'll give you $200 for that thing right now. And she's like, for real? I was like, yeah. It was Brianna. She was like, okay, here. So I got that dog. I got Cotton, and then so she had somebody at that time, but she definitely did not see me at all. And then.
And at the same time, you had your why, which was Cruz on the way. You
Yeah,
had your girl at home
everything.
was relying on you,
Yep.
and you needed to get the job done.
Yeah, man. I had no excuses. I literally just said, "Fuck it, let's do this." I was working probably from like 8 to 8 or 11, probably 8 to 9 every day, and then I went from 9 to 3 in the morning working at the other place, like doing all the maintenance stuff. Like I had people coming in. I was painting walls. I fucking put down floors, drywall. I mean, I figured it out. You know.
So you were pretty much sleeping for 5 hours a day and working 19.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. If that, shit, you know.
And how long were you doing this for?
Probably about a month. Like literally, the week my son was born, we got the approval from the city. It was like a Tuesday, and Cruz was supposed to be born Wednesday or Thursday. So like Tuesday came around, the health inspector came around. She like literally saw everything. She's like, "That looks great." Gave me the stamp of approval, and I was like, "Fuck, hell yeah!"
Like all the hard work paid off.
Yeah, at that time it was like, and I didn't even have anybody to fill it with. I didn't have any real artists. Like I told everybody, "I'm sorry for wasting your time." You know, it was a big upset because I had all these people that helped me out to make the business happen, and then I literally shit on their dreams because I didn't have all my shit, you know, taken care of. I didn't have any of the paperwork. I had none of that. So it was a real upset. And then, so I called them out of the blue and I was like, "Look, I have a new shop. If you guys are willing to give me another chance, let's try to make it happen." I had 3 guys join, and I was like, the only way I'm going to make rent is if I have another couple people. So I made 8 stations. So I had 8 people in there. My compadre Juan, he ended up having a bunch of his friends that he was tattoo homies with. And they came along, and they really helped me out, you know. And probably, so that week Cruz was born, my grand opening was September 13th, Friday the 13th. And that's when a lot of that little tradition started happening for us, was really just trying to kick off on a badass, you know, little tradition. And I went from having a business to no business to having another business with a new kid, and that's when everything changed. I mean, Cruz was probably the most difficult baby. I mean, he was colicky. He was up every 2.5 hours.
Damn.
I mean, I was working 12-hour days, and then I would come home, and then I would be up with him, and then probably only sleep about 3 hours a night. And I did this for like 2 years, you know? So I'm like, I'm a little hesitant when I see people like struggling to wake up early. I'm like, "You fucking pussies." You know, I was like, "Come on."
Yeah.
I'm like, if I can
no
do it on the lack of
excuse.
sleep,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, come on. There's got to be some type of will to do something, you know, especially
Absolutely.
with Cruz being born and me trying to create this business and really see the benefit in it, because in reality, I didn't really have to have anybody there, but I wanted it to see if I can progress as an artist, you know, be around other people that are great tattooers and pick their brain a little bit, you know, and that's exactly what I did. I surrounded myself by having great tattoo artists, friends, and then I just started picking their brains. You know, I went from tattooing anything that came in the door to just being very specific. And then when I first started tattooing at the shop in Rat-a-Tat-Tat, I really liked cover-ups. I enjoyed that. Like, I enjoyed taking on that challenge, you know, because everyone's like, you know, what am I going to do with this? How are we going to go about it? And I knew that there was a profit to be made with cover-ups, just because it requires a lot more time, you know. So that's when I started seeing more momentum. The more cover-ups I started doing, more people started hitting me up. And then I started doing realistic pieces out of nowhere, which was not my thing at all. Like, I did more illustrative pieces.
Yeah.
You
killed the portraits, by the way, too.
Thanks,
I love your
bro.
portrait.
Yeah, I
thank
actually
you.
just saw your Jim Carrey one.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, Damn.
And the
that
Albert
was
Einstein one is sick.
pretty
Yeah, the smart ass one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my buddy
That was
Aaron.
dope.
that's a trip too, you know, and like this whole industry is super weird. I mean, you could be hot one minute and then you're not, you know. With social media, there's so much going on with that, and I absolutely hate social media. I'm not a fan. So even just being here is a change. But I knew with my buddy Aaron, I was like, I made it a conscious decision. I was like, I need to do like a back piece or something. Like that's what I wanted to do. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The old shop, that was going well and great. And then about 2 years into our lease, my my landlord, she dropped the bomb, and she's like, hey, we're no longer gonna accept your lease agreement. We're gonna do month to month, which was like $800 more. And at the time I was paying like $2,600, you know, so I was like, this is a big leap. And yeah, so another upset, you know, and Cruz was still a baby, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck, okay, what am I gonna do now? Out of the blue, like right when I was told that, my old boss, who I haven't talked to since I left, hit me up, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to buy the shop. And then probably like a week or two before that happened, Christina was like, hey, would you ever go back to the old shop? Or would you ever, if you got an opportunity to buy the old shop, would you do it? And I was like, fuck yeah. You know, I'm like, I love that. There's so much memory and so much fun in that shop. I had to go back to that place, you know. And so when that happened, it was like goosebumps. You know, I was like, this is not happening. You
It
know,
was just like a confirmation, right?
yeah, it was a trip, you know. It was a trip because a lot of stuff happened like that quickly, you know, and you just got to be ready for it. And again, I had no rhyme or reason to say yes, and I said yes again. And I had no money. Again.
Same cycle, right?
Yeah, man. It's just, I never really prepared for these these slow moments, you know, like where you just feel like you're coasting, everything's going great, but when an opportunity comes, you kind of have to be ready. My thing was always like, if opportunity presented itself, I was going to take full advantage of it. I wasn't going to back out. I was always going to go head forward, you know, just try to do my best. So when I got an opportunity to buy the shop, I did it immediately, you know. And I talked to him like a week after he called me. He's like, well, I want to give you the shop, but I still want to make an income. So we wanted to do a partnership, which was at the time, I didn't really care for it because I was trying to get myself out of a hole. I still owed money on the loan that I had for the other shop, for the orange shop, and then all this extra money that I had to put into it. Like it was always a circle. So when I got into Fullerton, that was a trip because I gave my partner upfront cash, and then I still had to max out my credit cards just to bring the shop to where I felt it looked good enough.
Yeah.
Because I literally went in and I demoed the whole fucking place in like a night. I was like, okay, all this has to go. I'm like, this is mine now, right? He's like, yeah, all of it has to go. Find a place, let's get a U-Haul, you know, let's take everything out and let's clean it all up, because we had walls separating everything, so it made it look really small. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's take out these walls, let's put new ones, let's put new lighting, everything, let's paint all the walls. A lot of people came through. I mean, way more than the shop in Orange. I mean, I had, everybody and their mom wanted to help out at the time, which was cool because I've never had that. It was always kind of done, you know, I always had to figure things out on my own. Besides having the help, you know, of talking to my girlfriend, Christina, and I was, you know, she was always the rock, you know, the motivating force. She was like, well, fuck it, dude. You don't need anybody. Go ahead and do it, you know? She's like, I'll hold everything down over here. I was like, that's great. That's all I needed. You know, once I got that opportunity, it was a wrap. You know, we've been there. It's going to be 5 years this November.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill says that there's nothing that'll motivate a man more than a woman.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that a lot of the greats have utilized in the past is love. Is having that sacred bond and is having truth outside of the day, because oftentimes we'll get swayed by other people's opinions, by the materialistic realm, by things that don't really matter, but you have truth back at home, and that's something that you can go home to every day.
Yep.
So that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's
So at this time, you partnered up with the old
with
the old
Robert.
owner,
Yeah.
with Robert.
Mhm.
And did he go for the same rate? Because I know he wanted to do a partnership, and before he was offering you 30,000. Was it at that same rate, or did he lower it because he wanted to still get paid?
The shop, the shop that I bought out, Rat-a-tat-tat it's a different shop than the other shop that I was gonna buy out for 30,000. It's another shop in
Gotcha.
Orange in Fullerton.
Fullerton, okay.
Yeah, it was a smaller location. It was on the main strip on Harbor, and it was a trippy little spot, but I liked it because it would go with my crew. It was big enough for 4. Definitely not big enough for the crew that I have now, but yeah, when he backed out, I was like, well, screw that. I'm never going to go that route. I didn't want to go with a partnership or anything like that. But I love this shop. Like, this shop was the first shop that gave me an opportunity, and I'm loyal to the location. I'm loyal to the area, but it's in a little small strip mall, like it's like a little hole in the wall spot. I'm in the corner. Nobody really fucks with me. We don't get walk-in traffic, which is great for us because a lot of the guys that I work with now, they don't need it.
They already have their clientele.
Yeah, man,
right?
they're killing it. They're straight crushing everything that they do, and that's the main reason why I wanted to shop, is so I can provide this form that they can create money. Because before, when I was tattooing, I'm seeing all this cash go to waste. The shop wasn't making any progress. We weren't doing anything different. I was like, well, fuck this. I'm going to give it back to my buddies that are working for me. Even if I only knew the person for a month or two, I already knew that they were family because they were helping my family out, and vice versa. Whatever they needed, I would try to do, So it was definitely a weird change of pace because I didn't notice the pattern of change that I had to do. It was always every 3 years. I had to do something different. And I'm still doing that to this day now that I realize that. It's like with the new shop, with the studio, then the new shop, that was about 3 years combined. And then once that happened, that failure, I ended up going to the shop in Fullerton. 3 years later, I ended up having my daughter Noelle. And then 3 years later, I moved out, got my own little condo, renting, but eventually we'll get into our own place. But I feel every 3 years is key for me. And I was never one of those people to really see stuff like that. Like I always thought numbers and numerology and all this other stuff was just bullshit, but
it makes sense.
It made sense for me, and I can't say what people might take from my story, but I know for a fact that you have to switch it up, whether it's in every month or every 2 years or whatever. You gotta switch it up, and you can't be comfortable.
Yeah, and now you're with 8 different artists specializing in all styles.
Yep.
Did you ever expect this to happen? To be able to
No.
have 8 different artists. If someone comes in, they'll be able to tailor each and every need.
Yeah, it's funny because we can do it all. Each artist can still do what everybody else does. We just have our own signature little way of doing it. You can look at Black and Gray right now, and it's 1,000 different styles. I mean, same thing with color realism and color. Everything's completely different. But you gotta understand now, it's like you're dealing with a whole different beast with social media. I mean, if you can make a presence on social media, you can be tattooing for a week and make money.
So what was your marketing strategy around that, especially going against the competitors? Because there are a lot of tattoo artists, especially in Orange County.
Well, you're talking about the Mecca. Southern California is like the Mecca for Black and Gray. So my thing was always just remaining true to my clients and just allowing, that organic way of advertisement, which was word of mouth. I never advertised, only until recently. Never saw any real use for it, but I realized that I wanted to start doing things that are differently, and I needed to advertise. I couldn't just sit back on my hands while other people were making all this money, and I'm just like, fuck, well, I want to do certain things in my life,
Yeah.
you know, and establish myself, because in reality, I don't have a 401k. I don't have none of that shit. I don't have health insurance. You know, I got to make these moves happen for my kids so they can survive. You know, if my hands end up failing me in the next couple of years, I need to have things in place.
Damn, that's
They're
true.
going to let me do that, you know, because I already told my wife, I was like, look, I got 10 years before I retire. I'm like, and I want to retire when I'm 45. I'm 35 now. I got 10 fucking years. That's it. You know, so every year until these 10 years are up, I need to make a new business, a new move, whether it's anything. It could be, you know, selling coasters. I don't care. I just need to make sure that I got 10 new businesses by the time I turn,
Damn.
you know, 45.
I love that.
You know, and that has to happen, you know, because if I take a day off, I don't make anything, you know. If I go on vacation for a week, I don't make shit for a whole week, you know. So that's when it gets stressful, and I'm sure she feels it, but you know, a lot of the times it's just letting her know that her and the kids is all that matters to me, and I just want to make sure that we do that for us. That's great, you know. That's all I need, you know, because I can eat cup of noodles while my kids eat fucking lobster. Like, I can care less.
Yeah, a sacrifice.
Hell yeah, you know, because
Definitely.
reality, that's all I have is my family, because I didn't really have no real friends that would help me out in my search to become a tattoo artist. They had no idea. All my friends now, you know, they're still really great friends to me, but I don't see them like I see my own family. You know, they all have their own families, their own kids and shit like that. They all have their own businesses, but you know, they weren't there. I couldn't be there for them either, you know. But in reality, when it comes down to creating a presence, you definitely have to do that shit on your own. You know, with tattooing, since there's so many damn tattoo artists, my real presence was only with cover-ups. You know, I just made that my thing. I just tried to make a really good cover-up every time I got a chance, and it's been working so far. You know, it can probably change in a month, but
Definitely. By you doing things like, number one, we're so grateful that you were able to take the time out of your day
Absolutely.
on a Sunday at 8 a.m. to come to the Unbreakables studio and have
Thanks.
a great conversation with us.
Thank you, bro.
Little things like this, it's just going to take everything to the next level. And I know that you're going to be on more podcasts to come.
Oh,
Hopefully,
for sure.
very
yeah.
soon. So
Well, this,
For
you know, I'm sorry if I was rambling on, because
Not at all,
not
man.
at all.
it's the first time I've ever done this, you know, so I really can't say I've thought about my past or my life in this way ever. You know, I'm a very private person, so I'm sure in the future you guys are going to see me in other podcasts, and it's going to be a lot more in depth, because there's a lot more to me as far as, like, especially with my family, my upbringing and stuff like that. But I just felt like my mind was racing this whole time.
No,
No,
no.
You know, I'm
don't
constantly
worry, man.
thinking about different things, you know, and I might have been repeating myself, but I really want people to know that it's possible to create an income with things that you love. You just have to do it 100%. You cannot have this this cushion. There is no cushion in life. So you got to do it, you know, 100%, you know, and definitely don't take any steps back, you know. If you keep going forward, if you get knocked down, you got to keep picking yourself back up, you know, because you're going to get all these fucking people that are going to tell you can't do it. Why are you doing that? You know, I got more from my own family than I did from anybody else. You know, why are you doing this? You know, this is ridiculous. Why don't you get a regular job? I don't want a fucking regular job. You know, I'm happy where I'm at. And then now, you know, my parents come around and I can see them, they can say, what's up? They know that I'm okay, you know. So it's fucking possible. If you really love what you love, just do it. You know, stop being fucking scared. You know, what else do you got?
Take that risk.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, take that leap of faith, man. Fucking, someone's eventually gonna help you out. You know, whether it's gonna be an unexpected person that saw you on the street, or if it's gonna be someone that saw you speak on a podcast. You know, like, hopefully you'll get your word across, and then if you're passionate enough, it's going to come through in your work.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Passion is definitely key. Rafa, here at the Unbreakables, what we do is we play this little game. It's a magic deck. It's going to ask you 2 questions. I know you've been thinking, your mind's been racing. It'll make you think a little bit more.
Even better. I love this.
So the thing is, we don't ask the questions. The deck asks the questions.
Love it.
Okay? And just shuffle them up a little bit. Okay. So you can select 2.
2. And for everyone at home, Jessica is wearing the military green Unbreakables Next Level hoodie. It's a independent hoodie, 60% cotton, 40% polyester. Very,
now
very
available,
comfortable.
Guys.
Shit, it's my favorite color.
We got one for you, bro. We got one before you leave today.
We got one to go with your hat, man.
Fuck, man, if I wear that, you won't see me. I'll blend in.
All right, what's the first question, Rafa?
Okay, let's see here. What are you looking forward to this week? Oh, well, shit. My son Cruz, for his birthday, he said he wanted to go to a place called CVX, which is like this, I guess, epic YouTube convention. And that's what's going on at the end of the week. So until then, I'm going to just grind and then relax with my son.
Awesome. Anyone at home, if you guys are going to CVX, the YouTube convention, say what's up to Renegade Rafa. Follow him on Instagram at renegade_Rafa. And say what's up to his son Cruz. He's going to be a future YouTube star.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Yo,
and
he's a shit.
I also know you mentioned earlier that you're actually thinking of starting a podcast.
Yeah, I think it'd be dope. Maybe have it to where some of the guys would be on it. Our biggest thing with like me starting a podcast or the shop starting a podcast is just for the fact that we roast each other.
That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, if you come into the shop, just be ready to. You're gonna get a lot of people talking shit, and you'll hear us, going back and forth, and you're like, damn, dude. But like in all reality, if we didn't talk shit on you, we don't care about you.
Yeah.
It's all love, and hopefully you can dish it back because that's what we love.
And we're excited to see behind the scenes of Illuminati Tattoo Lounge because everyone wants to know what happens at a tattoo lounge. All the clientele you meet, all the people that they know. There's so many stories. Yeah, and we're actually thinking about recently. We're talking about having what was it to where like testimonies like after the tattoo. So it's one thing just showing a photo, but I want my clients to tell them what their experience was like, to the masses, because I feel like that's the only way you're really going to get to know me. And
absolutely,
besides just posting random photos, which I rarely do because some tattoos take multiple sittings, so I only get a chance to post a good photo every so often.
So it has to be personal, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And most of my clients, they come in at their own free will to get, tortured for 10 plus hours sometimes, and most of my clients sit for about 8. So it'd be cool to let them know or let them tell you exactly what they went through, what their experience was like, what they heard in the background. A lot of it is shit talking, but it's just I try to make it really fun. I don't want a tattoo shop to feel really programmed and rigid. Right? Yeah, I want it to just be really fun, and the environment has to be there because, dude, I know more about my clients than I know about my own family sometimes. Because they tell me everything. I'm the least paid psychologist, like if you want to consider it that. And you're tapping into pain, literally. Yeah, man. Like
two birds with one stone.
For real, like it's one of those things. It's release, and once you're there, it's like fucking mouth vomit. Like everybody has to tell me everything, and I'm just like, holy shit, like wasn't ready for this today, but hey, man, bring it on. I enjoy those moments with my clients, and I'm thankful for them, because they're able to let me do what I'm here to do, which is tattoo and provide for my family. Absolutely. Let me see what's up with this other one. Let's see here, last 24 hours. Okay. What thought did you have in the last 24 hours that surprised you? What thought? The last 24 hours that surprised me.
Damn deck.
Dude, that's a good one. No, because, I have a bunch of thoughts in my head all the time because when I'm tattooing, I'm either listening to music or I'm concentrating. So this last piece that I had was a pretty dope dope tattoo. Oh, I was thinking about like what my kids would or how my kids would be when they get older, because that's one of those things that I was thinking. I was like, man, because especially with my son and my daughter, they're very similar but very different. Like my son's he's a man's man, you know, he's a little kid, but you probably want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
And my daughter is, yeah, man, like he just wants to do everything that I like, which is like I shoot guns, and you know, I love knives, and I love being outdoors, and that's him, 100%. My daughter's a girly girl, you know, so I'm like thinking about how they would be when they get, I don't know, until 15 or 16 years old. You know, I want to know what kind of a person they are.
Of course.
And I tell my son every day too, like before school, I always tell him I want him to be a good person. You know, that's it. You know, just do what you got to do. Just, like, I'm not studious. I never was. I can't tell him to enjoy school, but I'm gonna tell him just be a good person. You know, be kind.
Absolutely.
You know, be nice to everybody. Meet a bunch of new people, but just be a good person. You know, and that's it. That's all I can ask. You know, and that's one of those things that I think about. Hopefully he is when he's, you know, 15, 16 years old.
I think he will, and I think he's going to impact a lot of people, especially starting this weekend. We're at CVX, so it's going to be awesome.
Hell yeah.
Rafa, where can the viewers at home find you on social media?
Most likely, you're going to see most of my stuff being posted on Instagram. You know, I'm just now starting to build my Instagram to where I feel people might want to see it, you know. I'm starting to post a lot more on my story, which is, you can see some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the funny moments, time lapse of my tattoos.
Rafa wakes up at 4 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that out there. It's very motivating.
Yeah.
It's compelled myself and my sister to do the same.
Dope.
So.
Yeah, and that started really randomly too. It was probably just, fucking Christina was like, look, if you want to work out, you better do that shit before the kids wake up. And I was like, shit. I was like, they're up at like 6 o'clock, you know, or like 5:30. I was like, when the hell am I going to have time for that? Figure it out. So there it is, you know. I started doing that, and I realized that everybody else and their mom that's a motivator wakes up at 4 in the morning. Yeah, I was like, dude, why? You know, who wants to do this? But personally, I have to get it in before my kids wake up, and
when everybody's sleeping.
Yeah, man, it's nice. And for me, it's mostly like just, you know, meditation. You know, I'm by myself, sometimes with no music. It's very low strain. Well, I do a lot of HIIT stuff, which is like just really high intensity stuff, but a lot of calisthenics. I don't like gyms. I absolutely hate gyms. But that being said, after walking into this place, the No Limits place, I might take that back because the gym here is fucking sick.
It's a lot of OCR. Dope. You have a lot of different things.
Yeah,
so
it's
it'll
fucking
keep you
epic.
on your toes. You won't get bored.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, there's a whole lot of shit that you can do here, and
check it out, man.
I'd have fun. Yeah, but that's it, man. You know, waking up in the morning was by chance. You know, and people actually really like that more than my tattoos now, which is so fucking weird. Like, being very like personal and like, you know, not really putting myself out there. Doing the 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. workouts is funny because I'll get people hitting me up about that. Or if I don't post something, like I'm still doing it, but I won't post it all the time. But they're like, hey, what's up, man? Are you up? Are you know, how was your workout?
You accountable.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, dude. I was like, okay, relax. I'm like, I'm sorry. But yeah, we'll have random people even just, oh, I saw your workout in the morning. I was like, that's strange. But thanks, you know, like I appreciate it. I'm not used to this yet, and hopefully I will soon. But I appreciate everybody that does see my stuff, and I appreciate for even just the opportunity to come over here and just, you know, say a couple things, to be around good people, you know, and just be on this awesome podcast.
Of course. And if you're looking for art that's quality, never quantity, check out the Illuminati Tattoo Lounge. You can check them out at illuminatitattoolounge.com. You can also follow Rafa at renegade_Rafa on Instagram.
Yes,
that's where he has all his motivational stories. That's where he has all of his art posts.
Cool.
Follow us at the Unbreakables Podcast. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram at the Unbreakables Podcast, and follow myself at _GiftThePoet_.
And we now have merchandise available. We have hoodies, we have men's tank tops, women tank tops, and t-shirts. So we will provide the link below. Let us know. They'll be posted on our website. And if this message resonated with any of you guys, like it, comment below. And if you guys are interested in getting tattooed, contact Rafa at Illuminati Tattoo Lounge.
Yep.
And you guys continue to live your true purpose. Take that risk. Take a leap of faith. Because like Will Smith says, on the opposite side of fear is pure bliss. So just live your guys' purpose, guys. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Unbreakable. Unbreakable.